This is going to be fun. So, what's the old saying about everything new is old is new again, right? So, I think one of the things that people always tell me that I'm really good at is taking the old school marketing and mixing it with the new school stuff to make it applicable, to make it work, to make it good over any situation. And I think part of that comes from being able to look at things and know why things don't work. And I can do that usually pretty quickly. I would hope so after 30 years of doing this, right? But for those of you who know me, know that there's a lot of sports analogies in my life and in my business. And so I've been watching, if you don't know, the Women's College World Series has been going on. And the two final teams will start play tomorrow. But it's just been so interesting for me to watch. And so I just want to kind of bring you in on this story, right? It's just, there's a lot of armchair quarterbacks, and there's armchair quarterbacks related to sports, and there's armchair quarterbacks related to your business. Dan Kennedy said years ago, I remember him saying, if you're not making somebody mad, you're not marketing hard enough, right? And it's so interesting to me how it's so easy in today's world, especially with social media and all these things, for people to criticize. They criticize your business. They criticize your life. They criticize what you wear, what you don't wear, whatever, right? It's easy to do that in today's world. But college softball is so different from when I played, obviously back in the 80s to now. But the fact that it's on television still amazes me. So I've been watching, right? Because it's my sport and I love it, and it takes me back a little bit, makes me nostalgic, right? So here's the interesting thing. Jerry Glasgow is the coach at Texas Tech. And Texas Tech and the University of Texas um, are playing. They'll be playing for the World Series. And so they played two games last night. They had to win two games in order to get to the finals, right? And most of the time, once you get in the losers bracket, you don't get to the finals. It happens, I think, less than 10% of the time. And it just so happens this year, both teams came out of the losers bracket. So Jerry Glasgow is 67 years old, and he reminds me, I think, a little bit of my dad and some of the coaches that I had, right? And he's not the only one, but he's hard on his players. And he admits that he's hard on his players. This is a guy who wants so much for his kids, his athletes, right, to succeed, that he literally, until this year, would drive to places, to schools with the batting cages in his truck, or not the batting cages, but the jugs machines, the pitching machines, right? So that he could have what he needed even when they weren't playing at home. This is a guy who's dedicated to his sport. He's dedicated to his school. He's dedicated to his athletes. Well, last night, his ace pitcher, who by the way was the first softball player in college to get an NIL deal for $1 million, she has really taken the team from being an unknown to a known. But last night, cameras in the dugout, right? ESPN shoots him like he's yelling at her. He's pacing, and he goes back and forth, and a few times. Well, it's so interesting to listen to people talk about how wrong he was, and how little girls were watching and all of that, right? Yeah. And the reason that he yelled at her is because she didn't throw the pitch that the pitching coach told her to throw, and the ball got hit out of the stadium. It was a home run and tied the game. But it's the same in our businesses, and so he's taken heat for being what I would call an old school coach, right? But what's interesting is he also has what I call the new school coaching method of, he cares about these young ladies. I would go so far as to say he loves these young ladies. He wants what's best for them. And he will admit that he's sometimes hard on them. I think a good coach is sometimes hard on you as a player, as a business owner. If you have a coach who never gets on you, who never challenges you, who never calls you on your crap, right? Your reasons, your excuses, how are you going to grow? Now, I'm not talking about berating somebody, calling them names, belittling them, whatever, right? You can correct and help somebody in a loving way so that they know that that's there. They have history. This team has history. They've been together. He's been with this pitcher for 2 years. She knows he cares about her. And she also knows that she messed up, right? And so she had to, and so it just brought to my attention as I was looking today one particular woman who was a mother of a softball player who was sitting on the couch watching this whole thing. And by the way, he was asked about it in the post game press conference, and he to explain 100% what happened and why he did what he did, and the player was fine. But here's this mom sitting there thinking he's a bad example. And I think a lot of times that happens in our businesses, right? We're afraid to take a big step. We're afraid to take the next thing and go out on a limb and do something maybe that we think is a little outrageous because we're afraid of the backlash. What will people say? What will people think? Who cares? Right. And I think right now, one of the things that I'm seeing a lot, and one of the things that I'm seeing people be really successful at, is taking some of the old school marketing and mixing it with some of the new stuff. And that's one of the things that I excel at, is taking things that have always worked, that have traditionally worked, the tried and true things, and intermingling them, mixing them with the new AI, mixing them with the new ways of lead gen, mixing them with brand new things to make them work in today's market. If you're not doing that, you're probably missing out. I would love to talk to you about helping you do that. Reach out, message me wherever you see this message. And by the way, don't be so quick to criticize when people do things differently than you do them. When something doesn't sit right with you, maybe go get some more information. Maybe find out more about the situation instead of judging somebody else who is obviously very successful. This man is coaching his team in the national championship game of Division I college softball. I don't know what the percentage of coaches are that ever get to do that, but it's small, just like the number of players that ever get to play in those games is also really, really small. I'm Diane Conklin with Complete Marketing Systems and Diane'sDozen.com. Till next time, make it a great day.